When we look back at history, our eyes are often drawn to the epic battles, the brilliant commanders, and the grand turning points of war. But behind these monumental events, there's a quiet, invisible current of people whose contributions, though never etched onto monuments, were just as vital. These are the unsung heroes, the messengers, the nurses, the mechanics, the cartographers, and the ordinary citizens whose quiet perseverance formed the backbone of every victory. They are the small, indispensable parts of a great machine, and their stories, though seldom told, are the true bedrock of history. Our story begins in the early 19th century, in a small town on the eastern border of a nation in turmoil. Here lived a young girl named Evelyn Carter. She wasn't a warrior. She possessed no extraordinary skills, but she had something far more subtle, a meticulous mind, unwavering persistence, and a truly remarkable memory. Her father, a humble machinist, often told her while working among his gears and springs in any great machine, it's not always the biggest parts that matter most. A single, tiny screw, if misplaced, can bring the entire thing to a halt. Evelyn didn't fully grasp his meaning then, but she would soon come to understand it profoundly. She was destined to become that tiny, crucial screw in the vast machinery of war. When the conflict erupted, Evelyn was just 20. The quiet rhythm of her town was shattered. Able-bodied men marched off to the front lines, and the streets filled with the constant rumble of wagons carrying supplies, soldiers, and mail. The air was thick with tension, yet charged with a shared sense of determination. Women stepped into roles they'd never known, running shops, managing warehouses, and supporting the war effort from the home front. One day, a soldier with sharp, observant eyes stopped by her father's shop. He wasn't looking for a mechanic, he was looking for her. He explained he was part of a secret courier team, and they needed someone with an exceptional memory, someone who could carry messages without writing anything down. A captured note, he said grimly, can change the course of a battle. Evelyn hesitated, but with a supportive nod from her father, she accepted the task. Her new role was unlike anything she could have imagined. Her commander would give her verbal instructions, intricate routes, secret rendezvous points, and critical messages for different units. They called her the invisible messenger, because she carried nothing that could be stolen, nothing that could be found. It was all locked away in her mind. Evelyn understood the weight of her responsibility, but she couldn't have foreseen the trials that lay ahead. One misty winter morning, she was handed her most critical mission yet. A platoon was trapped near a dense western forest, their primary route completely cut off. Without a new escape plan, they faced certain capture. Evelyn knew every second counted. She set off in her small carriage, her heart a steady drum against her ribs. The journey was treacherous. The roads were a mire of mud, and a bitter wind howled through the skeletal trees. But she pressed on, reciting the message in her head, a lifeline she carried in her thoughts. As she neared the forest, a deep, unnatural silence greeted her. The familiar sounds of birds and distant camp life were gone. Everything was too still. Evelyn stopped her carriage and cautiously stepped into the woods. After walking a few hundred meters, she found them footprints, chaotic and desperate, evidence of a recent skirmish. Her pulse quickened, but she didn't turn back. Deeper in, she found him, a young soldier, leaning against a tree, breathing shallowly but alive. The platoon, they retreated, he gasped, north, but we're cut off. The situation was even more dire than she'd feared. Pushing through the dense undergrowth, Evelyn followed the faint trail until she found the rest of the men huddled in a narrow valley. They were battered and wounded, but alive. They stared in disbelief at the young woman who had found them. But as Evelyn recited her message, every detail of the new route, every order from their commander, relayed with flawless precision, their skepticism turned to awe. An officer, his voice raspy with relief, whispered, "Girl, you just saved the entire platoon." Evelyn simply offered a small, tired smile. To her, this wasn't a heroic feat. It was her duty. For months, she continued her silent work. One mission required memorizing a long list of medical supplies for a field hospital. Another involved relaying complex defensive strategies to fortify a vulnerable line. Each task was different, but all demanded absolute accuracy. To her neighbors, she was just a young woman transporting goods. No one knew the true nature of her journeys. Her silence was her shield, her anonymity, her strength. She sought no recognition. One late spring afternoon, she returned home to find her father sitting on the porch, his face a mixture of pride and deep concern. "You've grown," he said softly, "but you're pushing yourself to the brink." Evelyn didn't reply. She knew he was right. The constant pressure of holding so much critical information had frayed her nerves. But the work wasn't done. That night, As she lay in a restless sleep, she briefly wondered if her name would ever be remembered. She knew the answer was no, and it didn't bother her. Some people aren't meant to be recorded in history. They are meant to ensure history is written correctly. Evelyn Carter continued to be the invisible bridge connecting orders to actions, commanders to soldiers, and peril to safety. Through her quiet perseverance, she became an unbreakable link in the war's operational chain, and her story is not unique. Across the country, thousands of people just like her were performing the quiet, thankless tasks without which grand strategies would crumble. They weren't on the front lines, but they held the lines together from the rear. They didn't carry weapons, but they were the lifeblood of a nation under fire. It is these people, the ordinary, the resilient, the unsung, who created the silent, powerful current that truly shapes the course of history. Thank you for watching. If you found this story meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more hidden histories.